continuing to push on. But at the end of the day, Spain didn't take us serious, and that was the beginning of their demise in that game.
5 days later, in a high school stadium, we got three good, legitimate chances to score, didn't hit on any of them. I'm just concerned about when I see inconsistency at a company I work for, with a team, with a president. I'm concerned about that. I don't see consistency of product.
Patriots have a great foundation and a great system. You plug anybody in and you get consistent effort. We don't have that in soccer.
Do we?
Well, that's because Bill Belichick understands the aspect of finding players to suit your system. Okay. Bill Belichick has an incredible mind for the game of football. Okay. And he's going to select players to play on his team. Okay. That have a high IQ. They may not be the most athletic. They may not be the most gifted. Okay. But he wants players with high IQ. Okay. That can study the film. All right. And go out and execute the game plan. All right. We don't have that on the United States national team. Okay. We don't have that. And we don't have a coach that knows how to do that. We don't have a system put in place as far as the men's national team is concerned, as far as the national team is concerned, or youth development. We don't have that in place. Okay.
But how does it reflect the culture? Is that what you were saying?
Yeah, I believe American culture. I believe we have.
Look at Lexi. He had the same he had the same type of face whenever Jurgen Klinsmann pretty much put the men's national team on blast in 2010.
Have a leadership problem in America, and it's pervasive throughout everything that we do in America. That's really big picture, but that's the way. When I listened to you, I was like, damn, it sounds like he's talking about America. And our soccer team is a reflection of America.
Well, first off, I agree that this is a team full of talented individuals. I think what we saw was the lack of consistency through this campaign showed us that this was, while a talented group of individuals, not a very good team. And it's not always the best players that you put together that makes the best team. I woke up this morning, I'm sure like Stu and like many people out there, it was painful. It was painful. It was embarrassing. It was sad. It was disappointing. This team failed themselves because of that talent. They failed their sport and they failed their country. And it doesn't mean that they aren't good people. It doesn't mean they can't go on to do good things. But that lack of leadership that I think showed up at different times, lack of
leadership. You get lack of leadership from the so-called veteran players like Clint Dempsey, who's only there to try and break the goal scoring record. I mean, that's just a joke. Okay, that's just a joke. That's not serious. That's not taking the U.S. National team seriously. Okay, that's not what qualifying World Cup qualifying should be about. Okay, it's not about breaking records. Okay, if you want to break records, break them naturally and organically, but do not try and break records to suit your own agenda. That's the only reason why you're playing. That's the only reason why Bruce Arena kept calling you up. Because when Jurgen Klinsmann was there, he put you on the bench, okay, where you belonged, okay? And he only put you there for the reason of, getting some type of spark off the bench whenever you were needed, and for some type of veteran leadership, okay?
Personality, lack of character, lack of identity as to what this team is. I think ultimately that did them in. But there is nobody to blame but Bruce Arena and these players. You can blame it on the system all you want. You can blame it on the soccer gods. You can blame it on other teams. No, it's the players that failed to live up to the talent that they have, because they should have beaten Trinidad and Tobago. The United States should be there next summer, and they didn't get the job done.
And I agree with that. Okay. A lot of the blame, because Jurgen Klinsmann only came in and coached and I guess coached 2 games within the World Cup qualifiers. Bruce Arena should have came in and put this team into the World Cup. Okay, his failure to do so is just indicative on, number one, his coaching, and number two, the lack of talent on the squad. Outside of Pulisic, there's no quality on this team. I don't care about Altidore. Don't tell me about Michael Bradley. At one point, Michael Bradley was a damn good player when he played in Italy for Roma. He was quality, and you can see it in his game. I mean, there was so much confidence when he was on the ball. But after he made the jump from Italy, he came back to the United States. I mean, his game diminished clearly. A lot of that might have to do with a little bit of wear and tear, but because he does do a lot of running, he is a box-to-box midfielder. But it's just a shame, okay, that these players would rather play in the United States. But I understand, they want to make money and live close to home. But if they're serious about, if that's what you want to do, don't play national team soccer, okay?
Is our identity.
Well, and that's actually what I was going to go back to, what Alexi was saying, also what you were saying about the leadership. What really struck me with Bruce Arena's comments after the game was a lack of accountability for what just happened, and saying, well, we're okay. We can continue on the path that we're doing. We're building a great system. We have some exciting youth players coming through. But to your question, what is our identity? What is the identity and the message from the top to the bottom?
And that's a good question to raise, okay? What is the identity? There is no identity in U.S. soccer, okay? Every World Cup cycle that comes around, you see, the United States, they have a lot of heart. They fight. They're never going to quit. That's the American spirit, okay? It's never about the game. It's never about the game. It's just about a will to win, okay? That's not much of an identity that's going to win you the game, okay? When Spain won the World Cup in 2010, what was their identity? Tiki-taka, okay? Tiki-taka. That was their identity, all right? And that's just an example, okay? But they're making the argument that this is the most talented team. Absolutely not. When Stuart Holden was coming through the ranks after he moved to Tottenham from the Houston Dynamo, he was playing quality soccer. Now he caught the injury bug and he couldn't get past his knee injuries, which is pretty unfortunate. Because he could have been a very, very good player for the national team. But you know what? When he was coming through the ranks, that was probably the most talented that the United States had been in a while. Okay, you had Stuart Holden, Landon Donovan, who was still decent. He was on the tail end of his career, but he was still decent. You had Onyewu in the back, Jonathan Spector, just quality players. Okay, Charlie Davies, who was also, someone who had that serious accident that pretty much put his career in jeopardy. He's never been the same since. You had a young Altidore, who again, he's not good. He's not a good player. I mean, he's not a good player, but at least he could hold the ball up for us at the top. He was strong enough to do that. Okay, and let Charlie Davies run off of him and catch a through ball or something of that like. Okay, Clint Dempsey was still fairly young. He had a little bit of quality to him. You had Jose Torres, Gringo Torres, a young Gringo Torres who was absolutely quality. Absolutely quality. The type of quality midfielder that the United States had needed for a very, very long time. He had it. That kid had it, and, I don't know what happened to him. It's unfortunate that he never really got a serious call-up. I know Jurgen Klinsmann had him play for a while before the 2014 World Cup, but he didn't get the call-up, which is pretty unfortunate. But the kid is serious. The kid is serious. Quality midfielder, but that was probably the most quality that I've seen on the national team. I guess you could say the era where Stuart Holden was on the rise in the national. So that was around 2010, 2011. Okay, around 2010, 2011. That was probably the most talented team that we had right after the World Cup. Right after the World Cup. Okay.
How are we scouting players? What is the developmental?
Absolutely. How are we scouting players? We're not. We're not. It's very political. The game is very political right now. If you got the money, then you can get selected to, back in the day it was ODP, or you can get selected to academy, or you can get selected to, a national team pool. It's all about money. Okay. Pay to play, like they were talking about earlier.
System look like? Now, they have made strides in coaching, and they're starting to put these developmental academies in MLS and all of it.
Which FC Dallas probably has the best academy in the United States. Okay, and they're one of the only teams in the MLS that actually develops their youth academy to play first team football. Okay, they're one of the only ones that do that. Okay, many of their players are players from their academy. All right, they get it, and I'll give Dallas, a lot of props on that.
But we are missing so many different players throughout the youth systems that then make their way up and know what it is to represent the United States. Because Lexi, I know when you put that shirt on and you stand there, hand over the heart, it's some of the best feelings that you've ever had. I don't necessarily see that with some of these players now on this team.
Let me stop you because I want to follow up on your narrative because I've been following your commentary. Tattooed, pampered millionaires. Those were your words. And that rings true to me too. And if you look across American sports, that's what I see. Tattooed, pampered millionaires who
Lexi Lawless's comments probably came off a little strong. I probably agree with everything he said. He probably could have done without the pampered tattoo millionaires, but he was speaking in the moment, and whatever, it is what it is. But let me tell you something. I really don't care if you have tattoos. I really don't care if you're pampered. If you can play, okay. If your game is quality, I could care less. Okay, I could care less. Leo Messi has tattoos all over his body, but let me tell you something. He's the best player in the world. Okay. Neymar Jr. is, top 3. Okay, top 2. Okay, he's on his way to becoming he's on his way to becoming the next best player in the world. Okay, tattoos everywhere, but he's quality. Okay. All right. I really do not care. All right. I really do not care. Pampered, I don't care. As long as you can perform when the lights are on, I do not care.
who are soft and don't. Again, you just talked about putting your hand over your heart and the pride you take in representing your country, and maybe that's missing. And are you not looking at our sports world and guys don't even want to stand up for the national anthem?
So Whitlock is obviously he's drawn the comparison to, again, the NFL and these guys kneeling and all that stuff. I could get into that, but that's that's a video for another day. But let me tell you something. All right. I'm not going to accuse these players of not having pride to play in the United States. I'm sure they do. Okay. I'm sure they do. They're just not good enough. Period. They're not good players.
It's pervasive throughout American sports culture. It's a reflection of where this society it is right now. And that's way big picture.
But soccer, though, has been disparate, where you have players, some are in MLS, some go overseas. It is a different culture than the NFL, where you go to Ohio State, and then you come from the Big Ten and you go to the NFL. Soccer is a world game.
The pampering and the tattoos are the same.
Yeah, but we sound like a bunch of old men, get off our lawn and all that kind of stuff. So it's all relative. So
yeah, that's exactly what y'all sound like. The get off my lawn attitude. All right. The get off my lawn attitude. He alluded to that in his rant after the game, or a couple weeks ago. Okay.
But that is the new norm, all right? It's not that I don't disagree with you. This generation, these players that were out there on that field tonight have been given everything. I would love them to have gone and been playing in the 80s or grown up at different times and seen what we had. Now, I don't begrudge them that. As a matter of fact, I'm incredibly proud that this generation out there has all of these resources and all of these things that we didn't have back in the day. But with that comes responsibility and a recognition. And, you know, when I was critical of this team, it was not necessarily telling them something they don't know. But I was saying, you know what? In this moment, you have a responsibility. Maybe you more so than anybody because of what you've been given. And we expect things from you. And do not waste this opportunity. And what we have done, all right, is a huge body blow and a disservice to the American soccer culture out there, because the United States men's team will not be in that World Cup next summer. And that is a platform that we cannot afford to waste.
You know, the feistiest player, though, is Pulisic. He is constantly in the official's face. He is like, we can say what we want, but he's their greatest skilled player. Dempsey's their legend. Howard, perhaps globally. But when I see Christian, I see a guy that absolutely cares. I don't see it from Bradley. I don't see it from Josie Altidore.
Well, they're past their prime, okay? Especially Michael Bradley. Michael Bradley's ready to call it quits, okay? He's ready to call it quits. He doesn't even take the game seriously in the MLS, and I don't blame him. I wouldn't either, okay? But, you know, Michael Bradley shouldn't have been playing in the national team the last 2 years, okay? He's done. I think that was pretty clear the last World Cup. He should have never been called up or called up again after that World Cup, and Dempsey either.
I think the young star, I love him. I wish I had more of his demeanor.
And you know what? It's unfortunate that, you know, a kid with the type of skill set that Pulisic has is not going to be in the World Cup. But, you know, that lets you know right there, you need to scrap everything and start building around this kid. All right.
And Colin, if you turned that game on yesterday, you had no idea of the circumstance, and you were watching 10, 15 minutes, would you have known that the United States had the World Cup berth on the line?
No, you wouldn't have.
You would not have. And that comes down to complacency. And this United States soccer team, over the past 3 years, their best games have been when their backs have been against the wall, against Colombia in Copa America, against Guatemala, against Honduras, against Panama the other night. And then it's all of a sudden, take the foot off the gas. Our mentality is that we're just going to cruise through to the next round. And there's nobody there. There's nobody I look around that team that says, hey, we're going to cross this finish line. There's no complacency. This is our identity. We need to get through. This is the message from above, and we're going to drive this team forward. I don't see that.
Let me just ask just a question if you're a diehard soccer fan. The MLS, isn't it better served if you want to be great in football, you send your kids to America, right? In medicine, we have the greatest hospitals on average, universities.
All right, now listen to what Colin Cowherd is about to say. He's about to really drill it in your mind about what it really means to be a quality player. Okay. Now he said if you want to be good at a certain sport, you come to the United States. If you want to be you want the best medicine, you come to the United States. Okay. Now listen to what he's about to say.
The Ivy League. The world sends their kids to us, right? Wouldn't we be better served sending our 16-year-old soccer prodigies overseas?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It doesn't get any simpler. It doesn't get any better than that. If you're taking your game seriously, you need to leave the country. You need to leave the country. Okay? You can go play in Mexico if you want to. Go play in Mexico. All right? But you need to go to a country, okay, that views soccer as its number one sport and develops their players' identity that they possess within their club, okay? That's the type of player. First touch is the biggest one, okay? The United States, none of these players have a first touch except Pulisic, but you know, none of these players have a first touch. Altidore has the longest first touch I've ever seen. Michael Bradley, again, he's over the hill. I'm done with him. Dempsey, he's just too old. He needs to go. All right. I can break down many more players, but I just don't feel like it. And quite frankly, I don't care enough about these guys too. They're just not that good. Okay, they're not good. All right. But yes, you need to leave the country. Okay. In turn, the national team is going to be better. And in turn, the quality within the country is going to get better. Okay. Because you understand the level that you need to be at. Okay. You understand the level that you need to be at.
Is the MLS helping or hurting our young players?
The MLS is helping us.
Okay.
And by the way, we are to a
No, it's not.
certain extent the architects of our own demise, because if you see who scored the goals,
A perfect example, and they just got rid of it, but the perfect example is the MLS draft. MLS draft. Okay. These guys are 22, 23 years old, coming out of college, getting drafted to the MLS. When in Germany, a 16-year-old, a 15, 16-year-old is signing his first professional contract to play for Bayern Munich's second division team. Perfect example. All right. Messi's 17, 18 years old playing senior level Barcelona soccer. Messi, 16 years old, playing U20 Argentina, playing for the U20 national team for Argentina in the U20 World Cup back in 2005. Okay. That's right there is the problem within the MLS. An MLS draft. Okay, this isn't football. All right. Again, the closest thing that you can compare it to as far as a development is maybe basketball, because guys come out of high school. Baseball too, but baseball, you guys probably won't agree with me, but baseball is a game. Okay, I wouldn't necessarily call it a sport. Maybe that makes me ignorant, but it's a game, and at times it's an exciting game. It's like chess, There's a little bit of athleticism that comes with baseball, but maybe that's my ignorance. But baseball's a perfect example because you got guys that come out of high school, 17, 18 years old, and they go into double A or triple A system, and they develop that pitcher or that first baseman or that center fielder. Okay, they develop him that way. Okay. All right. So by the time he's 20 years old, he's ready to play in the major leagues. Okay. Kevin Garnett is 18 years old, getting drafted to the Minnesota Timberwolves. They give him the starting nod right away, and he develops into one of the best power forwards in the game. All right. Arguably. Okay. Obviously, he's not better than Tim Duncan, but there's no doubt he was one of the most dominating players in the game for some time. Okay. But you catch my drift.
against the U.S. and who scored last night? It's a lot of MLS players. So in having this MLS, Major League Soccer here and having it be successful, also a lot of these Central American countries that in the past weren't great have had players that get that type of experience. Now, you can be successful and you can star in a World Cup whether you're playing in MLS or whether you're playing overseas. Are there opportunities overseas that at times give you an advantage here or there? Sure.
Which is exactly why these players need to go. And now Alexi Lalas is going to make an excuse for why these players should stay in the MLS, but it's irrelevant. It's irrelevant. It's just irrelevant. These players need to leave the country if they want to get quality, if they want to develop into a quality player.
But Landon Donovan, nobody complained about MLS when he was running around starring for the United States. When Frankie Hayden years ago.
Well, Landon Donovan is an anomaly, okay? Because Landon Donovan had the raw talent to probably be one of the best players in the world, okay? He had that type of talent, okay? But he did not want to leave the United States. Therefore, his ceiling was never reached. Okay. Landon Donovan, he had a stint in the EPL with Everton, I believe, and also with Bayern Munich. I believe it was Bayern Munich. I can't remember off the top of my head. Okay, but this was later in his career. Okay, he might have played for Leverkusen. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it didn't work out for him. So he came back to the United States. He probably didn't, he probably got psyched out. Okay, he probably got psyched out. I think part of Landon Donovan's problem was that he didn't want to make the jump to Europe and rise up to the challenge and challenge himself to be better than what he already was, because the United States has already given him poster boy status, okay, as the greatest player in U.S. soccer history. Okay, he didn't want to lose that. Okay, he didn't want to lose that as he's a 26, 28, 30-year-old getting benched by a 20-year-old. Okay. So he'd rather stay in the United States where it's safe and he can continue to be the poster boy for the national team and for the MLS and keep being crowned the greatest player in United States history. Okay, he got in his own way. Okay, but he had enough talent to be one of the best players in the world, maybe top 10, maybe top 15. He had that type of talent. But he decided to stay home, okay? But again, Landon Donovan is an anomaly, okay? Now, Pulisic is probably going to be what Landon Donovan should have been, okay? Period.
Or when DeMarcus Beasley was running around, when these guys were MLS players. It's I know it's easy to blame MLS, and I'm not saying that MLS is perfect, but I don't think that MLS is the problem.
Well, you're sure as hell defending it, as it is, as if it's perfect. I mean, it is what it is.
System that we talk about here, I don't know what the fix is for the system, because I'm a little confused as to what you mean by changing the system.
As far as what the development within the kids, I think when I look at it, I think that especially within minority communities, and when you look at youth soccer and the pay-to-play model that we have, it becomes an upper echelon sport. It becomes a rich kid sport.
Oh boy, here we go. Okay, Stu Holland is about to blow it out of the water right now. Okay, let's listen to what you got to say.
And you miss out on some of the players that are playing in urban communities and not in suburbia because they don't have the money to play, and we don't have the scouting systems now that pick up those kids.
Absolutely. I mean, it doesn't get any more frank than that. Stuart Holden is putting it back in Lexi Lawless's face, because Lexi Lawless was one of those rich kids. Okay. Now Stu was fortunate too, but Stu had the quality. You couldn't refute that.
The kids that fall through the cracks, these immense athletes that we lose to NBA, to NFL, to baseball, because they don't have the same opportunity that I think are afforded to other people. Now, he was killing it until he made that reference. I really don't have a problem with, kids that want to play, basketball or football or whatever it may be. That's okay to me. I don't have a problem with that. The excuse that people say is that all our best athletes aren't playing soccer. But let me tell you something, okay? Where I'm from here in Texas, again, I've seen quality on any given day, okay? But these kids are never going to get a chance, okay? Because maybe they don't have the type of image that the U.S. national team wants to portray, or they don't have the money, or whatever it may be. Okay, these kids don't have a chance. Okay, so their talent gets squandered in college. All right, now, God bless them, because they're getting an education, and they're getting their little 4-year degree out of the way,
and they can go on and, become successful another way. But as far as the national team is concerned, these kids are getting wasted. They're getting wasted, and not wasted by drunk. They're probably getting drunk too in college, but that's neither here or there. Their talent is being wasted in college, and at these amateur levels. It's just pathetic. It's just pathetic. And this, I know I've been saying this for years.
So who pays for the
U.S.
change,
soccer?
the change?
Alexi,
Okay,
U.S.
okay,
soccer
all
has
right.
$150 million
Okay.
in the bank. The federation is better off than it has ever been in its history. Now, there is a system in place to put some of that money into communities. They're building fields within the cities, but there's still, in my opinion, not a good enough dispersion of that money throughout the communities to where
Somebody
we
has to
can
pay
capture
for
that time.
not having pay for
Money
for
shouldn't be a
play.
problem. Soccer, to some of the poorest places in the world, are great at
No,
soccer.
but his argument, I think, a little bit is that they want to keep it among the wealthy and the rich. And Galati, the president, he could focus. He could become more desperate. He's another guy. There's nothing wrong with the system. Nothing to see here. He and Bruce Arena. A fish rots at the head. The head of this thing doesn't sound very strong to me.
Again, he's raising questions about Gulati, but Gulati is part of the problem. It is a rich man's game right now in the United States, but it is what it is. All right, now I just want to finish up this video with the 2010 post game where Jurgen Klinsmann starts to describe the issues that the United States is having. Just so you can kind of understand what I'm talking about in context. Again, this is before he was offered the national team job. But let's go ahead and hear what he's got to say.
Are we good enough? Do we have enough good players? Do we have enough good quality stock to get to where people want to be, round of 16 every year?
Oh, I think that's going to be a major discussion point for U.S. soccer. Now, what is the quality of our players really? I think looking at the game yesterday, you had three really quality players that actually didn't live up to their expectations. Landon Donovan, Clint Dempsey, and Tim Howard. They were not there. That was not their game last night. And if they don't step up to the World Cup stage, you can't expect now Michael Bradley and the other ones to pull it all off.
Exactly. Okay, when your three best players aren't showing out, okay, you need other players of above average or to good quality. You need other players of good quality to step up in their absence. Okay? If Messi is struggling, which,